Welcome back to the Unstoppable Africa News Desk. Well, along with AI that we've just been hearing about, one of the other big themes we've heard today is about green energy and renewables. Joining me now to talk more about this is Alice Ruweza, the President of Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa. Alice, please take this. So tell our audience, a lot of people who are watching around the world, we've had people say that they're watching from Colombia, from the UK, they may not know of AGRA. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, I can tell you about AGRA. So AGRA started almost 19 years ago now as the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa.
Okay.
We were inspired by Asia, and the question we were trying to answer was, if Asia could pull itself out of poverty through agriculture, could Africa do the same?
Great.
But have a uniquely African green revolution. And so we started AGRA 19 years ago, really with a dream of increasing productivity, agricultural productivity for smallholder farmers. And our first big bet was seed. If we could get the right seed to the farmer, would the farmer plant it and grow more food?
And this is across Africa, all 54 countries?
This is 12 countries.
Okay.
12 countries in Africa. Most of them in Eastern Southern Africa, but another couple in West Africa. So with seed, of course, we soon found out that it was being planted, but in some places we were not getting the results we were looking for because the soils were degraded and because the land was degraded. So we knew we needed to have another program on sustainable farming that would focus on soil health, on restoring degraded land, but also we needed extension. We needed also to work with farmers, give them extension workers, support them to how to plant, when to plant, what seeds to plant.
So education.
The education. And we call them village, we even call them village-based advisors because these are people who would be embedded in an extension system and are able to go to the last mile. But then we also realized we needed markets because when you grow all that food and you eat some of it, but where does the rest go? You need markets.
Right.
And also we found out soon enough that farmers were not adopting all the seeds unless there was a market. So we needed to work on the market to also signal to the farmer. And the final one we also work on is policy. We work on policy because we know that to get to scale, to get to the 54 countries in Africa, you will need to have a policy, even at a continental level, so that you can inspire all the 54 countries to take on. So in a national level, you need policy, seed policies, trade policies that enable uptake beyond the site where you're working, because we are a catalytic organization, we catalyze, but then government takes it on. But you need policy, yeah.
So you said you started this 19 years ago. So what have you achieved in those 19 years?
I think one of the best examples I can give you is on seeds. When we started 20 years ago, there were only international seed companies, and the seeds were coming in from private sector, international. We started a program where we trained master's students and PhD students to become breeders. Okay. And when they became breeders, they started breeding seed. And then we trained local organizations to actually produce seeds. So we have organizations like Meru Agro. We have in Tanzania, another one in Nigeria. I saw another one in Kenya the other day. There's many more local organizations, many more individual entrepreneurs who are getting into that space and producing enough seed to supply their communities.
Well, you've also led the Global Environment Finance Unit in Africa, which mobilized over $600 million to support environmental initiatives in more than 40 sub-Saharan countries. So what is that work, and how does it pair with what you're doing at AGRA?
So that work, I was at UNDP. That was a Global Environmental Finance Unit. It was set up to specifically support countries to access global environmental finance, either from the Green Climate Fund or the Global Environment Facility. The Global Environment Facility exists to support countries to either protect their biodiversity, to address climate change issues, address chemical issues, address water issues. It's a fund that has been around since 1992. It was founded by the Rio Convention. So that fund, countries are allocated resources, but they can never access them directly. They access them through agencies. And UNDP was one of those agencies. So I was a team leader of that unit, and we were supporting countries to access. How does that relate to AGRA? It relates to AGRA because at the time, first and foremost, it provides a clear intersection between agriculture and environment. While this is an environment facility, agriculture has the biggest footprint on the environment. The more you convert land for agriculture, the more you encroach into wildlife corridors. So the way we produce food and what we eat has a big impact on the environment. It has a big impact on climate because food production is the biggest source of greenhouse gas emissions through slash and burn agriculture and others. So there's a big relationship between what I was doing there and what I'm doing at Agra, because at Agra we are looking to sustainably produce food. And if we sustainably produce food, it's good for the environment.
So I want to ask you, because sustainability, food, this is very, very important, and it's a big theme of this conference, but equally the panel just before us was all about AI, and AI is this other big theme. But how do AI and sustainability go hand in hand? Because with AI, one of the complaints that we always hear is that you need big data centers, you need power, and that's actually bad for the environment. So when people are looking at Africa as a source for both, is that somehow contradictory?
It's a good question, and it is like everything in life. It's a double-edged sword, right? We need AI because AI is an enabler. It makes things go faster. For example, I'll give you an example in agriculture where it's going to play a very strong one. It's going to be an AI advisory, extension advisory. Right now in Africa, it's one extension farmer per maybe 40 farmers. It's not efficient. How are you going to reach everybody? And how are you going to make sure that information reaches everybody? But if you have a central space where AI can provide that information and where a farmer can just click and say, oh, I have this question, let me click on, and you get the answer back in your own local language because AI has language models, that's exciting. Of course, on the other side, as you're saying, where it is, we're hearing all these stories about the data centers using a lot of water. And my belief is that just as we created AI, just as we've worked very hard, we can still work very hard to create a sustainable model that uses less water and affects the environment much less. So I think there's been a lot more technology and a lot more work to be done to get there. But I think AI is here to stay, and it's very important for us.
Well, I mean, that's a hope that it needs to be developed responsibly. But you just touched on something else, which is water. I actually think that water is one of the issues that is most critical to the future of Africa. And maybe not enough people are talking about it because water is scarce. Water is something that is much needed, not just in Africa, but all around the world. And potentially Africa needs to be doing more to harness and safeguard the power of water. Would you agree?
I fully agree. And you know what's amazing about water and where I'm seeing a lot of innovation? It is in the Middle East.
Yes.
The Sahara Desert, where they don't have water, and yet you can see the amount. They're probably producing the best fresh vegetables in the world than places like us where we still have water. And that's because of technology. It's because of innovation. So yes, water is so important. It's not being talked about enough. And again, agriculture uses the most amount of water in the world as well. So it's very important that water becomes a central part of our discussion, but it's also important that we learn from each other, that we learn this innovation. So we need this north-south or south-south collaboration with countries that are doing exciting things with desalinization, hydroponics, and most of those Middle Eastern countries have learned this, and it's of course important because that is where they live. Yeah.
So it's a really interesting point. So water and is interesting, sustainability, AI, all of these three things need to go hand in hand and be developed responsibly together for a good future.
Absolutely. I think that's why sustainable is about social, economic, and environmental. Yes, we want prosperity, right? We want economic growth. We want people to have better livelihoods. We want them to get better incomes. But we cannot do it at the expense of the planet, and therefore we must produce more sustainably, and we must be more watchful about how much water we are using, how much land we are using. But it's people first, always people first. So the social contract with people, making sure they are fed, making sure nutrition, they have the right nutrition, making sure women businesses are getting what they need, making sure people with disability, the youth, are part of the conversation, but it's very, very important. So for me, that's what sustainability means, the social, economic, and environmental.
Alice, it has been such a pleasure to speak to you. I am so glad that you're at the helm of it. I'm sure you're going to sort it all out, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, it has been a jam-packed conference, and as we begin to come to a close here, let's take a look back at some of the highlights from yesterday. Thank you.
Fabulous, fabulous. We've got some creative personalities in the room tonight.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you for believing in Africa, and thank you all for making Africa unstoppable.
And well, over the course of these 2 days, we have also spoken to numerous influencers like Susie and Izzy, who joined me on my show. We were talking about African culture that they are taking mainstream through art, culture, and social media. Now, one guy who knows all about the power of the creative industry is Peter Johnson. He's a creative entrepreneur and a founder of Project 96. That is a cultural organization that has grown into a movement celebrating African creativity and community through fashion, experiences, and media. So Peter, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So you are doing all the creative stuff, all the fun stuff. Tell us how you got into this.
Yeah, for me, it was I recognized there was a void in just the market where, you know, African culture, the things that I enjoyed about African culture, the food, the music, just all the pockets of it that I enjoyed. I was in search of just like finding it in America when I moved to America from Lagos, Nigeria. I was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria, and I moved here to New York City, and I felt like being in the cultural capital of the world, which is New York City, like we needed to take up space as Nigerians, as Africans. Like let's put ourselves out there beyond just.
And it's physical space. It's like social space, digital space. So there's visibility, right? But on platforms that actually reach people.
Yes, exactly. And you know, these creators who have sat here that I've introduced and invited to be a part of this experience, you know, they do that through their channels because the internet is where we can all talk. We can connect to the global, be a part of global conversation through our respective channels. And I think like we have an opportunity to broadcast, to showcase all aspects of ourselves, our culture on this global sphere.
You know, when we talk about like Susie and Izzy, some of the people that joined us, you know, we're talking about people who are teaching African dance to celebrities, you know, braiding celebrities' hair. I mean, this is like big scale. How are you seeing other people's attitudes change to African culture through these pathways?
Yeah, I mean, we can start with maybe the more prominent, potent pocket of culture, which is even music. We can get to the other two you just mentioned, but music has been a catalyst for the adoption, the appreciation of African culture, Afrobeats.
Afrobeats is what most people know, right?
All the names that you could think of about just like music. I mean, everywhere that I go in New York, primarily that is most fun and exciting and entertaining is African music is playing, you know? So, you know, there's been this like reclaiming or just even the way in which it's being appreciated because of this force. You can't escape, like, you know, Nigerian somewhere.
And food too, you know, Tatiana is this huge restaurant.
Right we have Lagos right here, you know, down the block. So I think there's, you know, just an adoption and again, even you mentioned the dance, right, the hair. Like we have all of these pockets of culture. We're infiltrating, we're coming in with our own sauce, with our own energy, and the world is, you know, they're appreciating it.
And you know, it's really interesting because social media, in a way, has been a great equalizer because it's allowed a lot of visibility for a ton of African talent at little cost, right? Because anyone can pick up their phone these days and post a video, and then it depends how people engage with it. But at the same time, whilst it's a huge blessing, it also is a curse because there's a lot of people out there who are probably watching now and everybody thinks they can be an influencer, but they don't realize that it takes a lot of work. You're going to, you know, collapse a lot. You can't always put all your eggs in one basket.
Right, 100%.
So talk to our viewers a little bit about like what are some of the lessons that you've learned, or what are some of the things they should be aware of?
For sure. I mean, on the side of the creator, I think there's this misconception about like, you know, the way in which maybe people are, you know, people come into this thinking they can just kind of like blow up in the next, by tomorrow because, right, maybe they see their friends on TikTok and they've gone millions of followers, like, you know, overnight, but it's years, right? Izzy has been doing this for over a decade. Susie's been doing this for even more than that.
And people think that, you know, and actually she spoke about some of the hardships that she had, right?
There's a lot, right? And then on the other side of it, right, even finding an opportunity to integrate them into like an experience like this, because there's that, you know, our influencers of today, the content creators of today, they're the best translators, right? This experience might not be more like interesting for someone who is like who live primarily on the internet, right? Because this is slightly more, like just far.
Well, they should be watching us if you're on the internet.
Exactly, but because we bring these people in, and we find a way to integrate, right? So because there's just that power in the way they're able to communicate to these people, the audiences who they watch YouTube, they sit on on the internet, and I think just finding a way to kind of bridge the gap between the check writers, the shot callers, the people who are in these rooms, who are trying to amplify what is happening, because social media is the vehicle, is the way in which people can learn more about what Unstoppable Africa is, what the UNGC is doing, and the creators are the ones that can do that. So the challenge sometimes is when maybe they're trying to present it to like corporate, or people who don't fully understand it, but know it's necessary, and finding a way to kind of like communicate. Hey, listen, we need these people present. We need.
Well, these people, you find these people. So tell me a little bit about how your company, Project 96, are you just scouring the internet, kind of like a model scout, but you're doing this on Instagram or on YouTube and thinking about who's fun, or do you know these people?
Yes.
How does it work?
It's the latter. So it's truly the power of community. I have been fortunate to build a thriving community, ecosystem, like you mentioned, across the fashion arm of the brand, the experiential arm of the brand, the media arm of the brand. We've worked with these creators like from time, right? Whether it's like bringing Izzy to do a live dance, session workshop, through our experiences, whether it's, doing a presentation where Susie's doing the hair, or, just we've found ways to integrate with all of these people. And, because of that thriving community, we can then find ways to go, hey, we're doing something with Unstoppable Africa.
And it's collaboration.
It's collaboration.
All right, so now I want to do some rapid fire questions with you, all right? Let's get to know who Peter Johnson really is.
Let's do it.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
So quick, no thinking.
Okay.
Who's your African hero or role model?
Wow. Oh, that's a great one. Thomas Sankara is a great example.
Why?
I think he was just someone who championed his Africanness, and that's something I admire. I mean, just being here, a lot of people who are present here, they are here because they care about the future of Africa, but not just caring and just talking about what the future could look like, because the future is now, and the actions that people take is what will lead us to that future. So I just admire all his values and things that he represented, and that's someone.
Okay, so that was so interesting, but now I want to do like a rapid fire.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, and it has to be rapid.
Okay, let's do it. Let's go faster.
So no thinking,
Okay.
So what's a fun fact about Africa we don't know?
Fun fact about Africa, I mean, it's not a monolith. I mean, we know a lot of people still think Africa is a country. If honestly, you could go outside right now. And
there's 54 countries in Africa.
There's so many countries in Africa.
That's good. Last one. If Africa had a soundtrack, what song should be on it?
Wow, that's a great question. Burna Boy has a song on his African Giant album called, I believe it's actually African Giant itself.
Yeah,
and,
it's a great
and I think that is a great song that captures just the energy of what it means to be African in Africa, all that it means and represents.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much. It has been great to speak to you.
Thank you.
So talking about African giants, well, we heard the opposite yesterday from one economist, Jeffrey Sachs, who was in this room, who made some comments about investment, which has rattled a couple of people. Take a listen to this.
So what is holding Africa back from achieving the sort of industrial and economic success that China and India have achieved?
Nothing's holding it back. Get a plan, a strategy, implement the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, build the physical infrastructure, go to China to build your railroad. I'm telling you, it will be built immediately. Don't listen to the United States. Oh, you can't have China there. They're dangerous. The U.S. is a slow-growing part of the world. It's protectionist. It's nasty. Sorry. I'm sorry. Europe, you know very well. You had 300 years of experience.
That did not go well for us.
No. Honestly, you have so many friends and new partners. India's booming. They're great at IT. Bring them in. They have an India-wide IT system that means
We're working with India to build a rail track in DRC.
To do what?
India to build a rail track in DRC.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Good. Okay. You have partners in the Gulf. You have partners in India. You have partners in Asia. Russia is a partner. Just open up. Don't listen to this crazy geopolitics we have right now.
Anyway, I think I have to come in now.
Okay. Samaila, go ahead.
And the reason is because Africa really, with the right strategy, will attract a huge amount of capital. But honestly, the truth is, I hear it every day, we have the youngest population. Yes, a youngest untrained population is no resource. It's a headache.
Let me tell you what
a young, highly educated population is the dynamic heart of the world economy. So I'm a pedagogue, 45 years as an educator. Work with me, let's educate young people in Africa. Get them online, we can get everyone educated.
All right, Samaila.
Well, those comments have had everybody here buzzing. What needs to be done? What do you think about that? I want you to comment on our YouTube page, in our live feed, and let me know. And I will come back and tell you what people have been saying a little bit later. But for now, we're going to hand it back to the main stage.